Welcome back to GG33 Studios, live in the best location in the nation in Sunny Isles. Today we have Hassan with us. And brother, we're just going to get right down to it. Who the hell are you and what are you doing here?
I'm a lawyer that deeply loves Islam. I believe it has solutions to a lot of the problems society's facing. It actually shaped my law firm. We do an ethical practice. And I'm excited to explore the conversations with you, man.
So there is such a thing as ethical lawyers?
On rare occasion.
Okay. So you're in the minority.
I'm in the minority.
I got you.
I think so.
So Hassan, the reason you're here is we're going to discuss Islam, but this is not going to be the typical conversation where, I'm an atheist and you have to prove God exists. No, we're not going to do that because I believe there's a higher power. So we're not going that route.
Amen.
I'm also not going the route where it says we are all gods and I just have to do something to power up all my chakras and then I will be a god. We're not going there either.
Good.
That would be a subject for another day with people with much lower intelligence. You got to throw some shade at people.
Sure.
Always got to throw that shade.
Sure.
But what I do want to discuss with you is this almighty, by the way, I admit I am nothing. I admit God is all powerful. Is this almighty benevolent? That's what I want to discuss. And we'll get into a lot of other things, but what would you say, just for a quick argument, and we'll go back to this at the very end, how would you look at all the suffering that goes on in this world, from hunger to theft to rape to pedophilia, and say God is benevolent? Maybe he's just neutral.
No, I definitely believe God is benevolent. The only way we can come to know God, we can come to know that he exists through our rational mind, through our intellect, through thinking. But to actually know how God is, that's where we have to turn to his revelation. I don't believe that there's an all-powerful creator that created us and left us without revelation, without a way to know him, without a way to connect with him. And when you study the holy text, the Quran is the only book that claims to be from God that was never changed in all of history.
You believe a illiterate man who was 40 years old, and I could get the age wrong, wrote the Quran?
Well, I don't believe he wrote the Quran, no, because he was illiterate. He was 40 years old, known to have never said a lie, known to be a man of principle and integrity, and he could not read or write. And yet he gave humanity, which we believe it was revealed to him from God, the most eloquent moral code for all humanity to live by. I don't believe he could have written it.
I believe that I believe in the law of the code. We've talked about this.
Correct.
We'll go into this further. But what I don't really believe is in fairy tales. How does an illiterate man write the most? So again,
Because it's from God. That's the point. He couldn't have done it. There's no way Muhammad could have written the Quran. I don't believe he wrote the Quran. And the thing is, I know half the Quran by heart. When I studied it from my teacher, studied from his teacher, studied from his teacher, from the Prophet Muhammad in an unbroken chain. So I know it's true. I got friends in Africa, in Kenya, in Gambia. They know the Quran by heart. They all have their own independent chain of transmission going back to the Prophet with the same message. It's too powerful. It's too eloquent. It's too factual.
That could just mean it's really good propaganda, and the propaganda spread a long way.
Well, listen.
I mean, hold on a second. LGBT was founded in like New York and went to San Francisco. Now it's all over the world, including in some Muslim areas.
Right.
So again, if your definition that's spread all over the world, then we could say the same thing about LGBT.
But that it was preserved and unchanged. And what is the message? The message is that there is one God, and that you cannot come close to God if you don't honor his creation, if you don't treat his creation with mercy, with justice, with morality, with ethics, if you don't preserve the family, if you don't stand up for justice. That it's a beautiful universal message.
I agree with everything he says. So just so people understand, I'm not a liberal debating that.
Sure.
I agree with everything he says. We're getting to the root issue.
And it's very simple. Now you bring up the problem of evil. I mean, the issue of evil. Islam doesn't have a problem with evil. God says, I gave you a choice. I tested you with the choice. Me doing good is only valuable if I have the potential and the ability to do bad. And some people will choose to do bad, and some people will choose to do good. Free will. And there will be suffering. But guess what? The suffering of this world is inconsequential compared to the eternity of the hereafter. Any number.
Is there proof?
Well, you're the numbers guy, right?
Hold on. Is there proof for what you're saying, though? Or is that just faith?
Look, at the end, faith is what gives weight to our worship. But I believe it's rationally grounded faith. I believe it's the most logical conclusion when you consider all the other alternatives.
Okay. I mean, faith is the one thing you can't argue.
You can't.
Because you either have it or you don't. And as a man of intellect, as a man who, quite frankly, likes to argue,
yes,
there's not much you can do. There's not much wiggle room. Well, so what we can do is we can talk about the reasons people have faith.
We can talk about that, but we can also talk about rational consistency. See, anybody's beliefs, they should be rationally consistent. So, for example, when I say God exists and I define God as infinitely powerful, by definition, he cannot have a need. If you are infinitely powerful, you have no need. I know that's where you and I diverge a little bit, but I would say it is rationally inconsistent, Gary.
I disagree, because when it comes down to what you were saying, humans have free will, angels do not, correct?
Correct.
So if we go by that logic that humans have free will, that means our
worship is more valuable to God.
Exactly.
And
our
I agree with you.
Worship is more valuable to God. So if we're going to that definition that our worship is more valuable to God, that kind of negates what you're saying.
No.
Hold on. It negates what you're saying, because you basically said he doesn't need anything. Well, he actually does need our worship, doesn't he?
No.
Even if it's a piece of candy that's a little bit extra, he needs it. He wants it. Correct?
So this is where I differ with you, my brother. I differentiate between need and want. You can want something without needing it.
Okay.
And you can need something you don't want. You
Agreed.
know?
Agreed.
So I believe God
but does he actually need it? That would be the question.
And I would say no, because by our definition, we say God is el-ghani, the independent of need, free of need. You have decreed that your mercy prevails over your wrath. You know, God doesn't need to show us mercy. In fact, and if he was evil or if he was negative, then we wouldn't be living this life. He could have just created us.
Wait a second. There's plenty of people. I'm living a good life, but I wasn't always.
Sure.
You're living a decent life, but you weren't always.
Right.
So
God
again,
tests us.
everything is yin yang.
Well, he tests us.
Is everything not yin yang in this world?
He tests us in poverty. And he tests us in affluence.
But we have different tests in both realms.
We do. And we each have tests that are tailored, designed for us to see, do we choose him or do we choose our ego? There are people who worship their ego instead of God. There are people who worship wealth. My proposition to you, my brother, is everything we worship, aside from the infinite, perishes.
I only worship my wife's body.
God bless you. I mean, that's a different kind of worship. Maybe a kind we support.
So I'm just saying, is that allowed by Islam?
Listen,
hold on. Is that allowed by Islam?
I mean, we're using the term worship loosely, but let me just get into it. In the Islamic tradition, when you make love to your wife, that is an act of worship. You may be getting more blessings when you are intimate with your wife than when you're going to pray in the mosque. Believe it or not. Why? Because you're showing love, you're showing affection.
Can you repeat that one more time for the people listening?
In Islam, being intimate with your spouse is an act of worship. It can often be more blessings, more rewarding than even worshiping God alone in the mosque, because your worship just benefits you. But when you're being intimate with your spouse, you're strengthening the family bonds. Family's everything. It's the basis for society. And that's why a lot of these movements, especially in this month of June, are so satanic and destructive. Sorry, I'll say it. I know you don't fear anyone but God, I think, in this. You know, it aims to destroy the family.
I think if you keep promoting that and get a couple ad programs to promote what you just said, you might convert more people to Islam than Andrew Tate.
Well, I think
by saying that, brother.
Yeah, well, I think that's why that's helped him become Muslim. That's why a lot of people are flocking to Islam. They want a moral grounding. They realize that hedonistic lifestyle brings no pleasure in the long term. And in the end, what do you accomplish? See, we live this life where we think I can be happy if I have A, B, and C, maybe a lot of wealth, the nicest car, the nicest house. But the reality is most people struggle their whole life to get that, and many don't. And even when you do, then you got to maintain it, and you start losing. Eventually, you lose your own health. Eventually, everything perishes. The life to hereafter, that's the only eternal life. So we focus on what is to come next.
But that's another thing we disagree on. You don't believe in reincarnation.
No, we don't. We believe you got one test, and you're going to be graded at the end of that examination.
So I would challenge that by saying, based off numerology, there's people who are ones, people who are threes, people who are fours, and all those people have to have different challenges in life. You, my friend, are born on the 5th. Correct?
Correct.
Have you traveled quite a bit in life?
I travel a lot, bro. More than I'm home.
So that is basically a quality of the 5th. People who are born on the 5th, they do a lot of traveling. So for me, I believe that every life path basically offers a clue into what our soul's basic destiny needs to be in this lifetime, because it makes more sense to me that as a soul evolves, it has to go through different missions. Just as you grow in the soul in this reincarnation, you go through different steps. I also believe that happens in the numerology and astrology is like kind of the landscape that shows us, okay, one reincarnation, learn these lessons. Next reincarnation, learn these lessons. And baby, like I'm saying, the 5 hit you right away, right? It makes sense to you that you have to travel,
right?
Because that's what you said. So again, to me, it would make sense that reincarnation actually does exist, and you have to go through the life lessons of what all these numbers within this matrix and this virtual reality would mean.
Right.
Tell me why that would be inconsistent with Islam.
With our tradition, we do believe we have a soul. We all witnessed God's greatness before we came down to earth. That's why most people,
Is there proof of that?
Well, even self-proclaimed atheists, a lot of it, when times get tough, when they're out in sea about to drown, they're praying, they're crying out to God. You see this happen again and again.
Does that prove that
I think
it's only the people that need something to start being believers?
I think it's consistent. I think we are pre-programmed to believe in God. I think we're pre-programmed to believe in a higher being.
So what's going on right now?
And that's consistent. Well, people are rebelling against their pure nature. They've
So in the
corrupted it.
Aquarius age, people are rebelling. That's what they do.
They've corrupted. Look, there are secrets in this universe. There's programming. There's codes, and I don't think we'll ever fully understand it to a depth. Maybe we've untapped some of it. God knows best. But there's many secrets out there. Ultimately, though, I think what we are consistent with is the fact that death is inevitable.
Death and taxes, right?
Death and taxes, and death even more so. And so our belief is you have to work for that which lasts beyond your life. And that is
An
the
emotional
good,
woman, right?
and a beautiful, righteous, supportive woman that doesn't give you gray
He's
hair.
obviously smarter than me, man. Touche, brother. Touche.
My brother.
Before we go into more places that we differ, let's talk about some of the things that we actually agree on. I agree that people should not drink alcohol.
Yes.
Okay. I don't do it because the Quran says it. I do it because I believe people are weak under the influence of alcohol. I believe there's a lot of negative effects. I also believe that people can be possessed.
Yes.
When they have alcohol.
Yes.
I believe
The spirit.
jinns-
That's why they call it the
I believe
spirit,
they say
right?
Spirit, because
That's
I believe
weird. And
that-
I've seen the demon come out in people when they drink too much.
It makes sense that when people lose control of their own body, maybe some negative forces around them take over.
The jinn just take over, brother.
A lot of times I talk to people, and the worst decisions they made, whether it be a woman who opened her legs to the wrong person, had a baby, ruined her freaking life, or a man who basically got in a car accident because he was being stupid and drunk.
Maybe even
I've seen
killed someone.
a lot of bad decisions come from alcohol. So I came to the same conclusion from my place and my perspective as you did when it comes to alcohol. Second, I am born in the year of the snake in Chinese astrology. To me, my enemy is the year of the pig. What that basically means is, guess what? I shouldn't eat any bacon.
Wow.
I shouldn't eat any pork. I shouldn't eat any ham. This is 20 years of research. So again, my perspective aligns with yours when it comes to this. So I'm also a family man, wife, kids, all that good stuff. I am out here promoting living that type of lifestyle, and I do have a little bit of influence out here in the world. Okay? So my question to you would be, I don't worship anything. I quite frankly, just because something is almighty and has all power around it does not mean it's deserving of my worship. Okay? It is my free will.
Right.
It is my right to actually give it or withhold it. I believe when you pray to a God, you actually give it your energy. Do you agree?
So listen.
Just no on that one.
Not that you give it, and God doesn't need, but He wants.
Okay,
he wants you to be grateful.
So if he wants you to be grateful, there's some kind of energy transfer there.
I know, because look, God is perfection. He's complete. You can't add to God.
If he doesn't want something, he doesn't need, but he wants something.
He wants. But
okay, if he wants something, even if it's love, there's some kind of frequency that love exists within this energy.
He wants to have that love with us. He wants to have that love with us for our own benefit. Though we're the ones that benefit through it.
That is something we can discuss. And I am basically trying to find out with you, are we in alignment that our love, when we worship, there's something that we release, some kind of energy.
We're offering God something.
Okay, so
that He's appreciating.
There's some kind of energy that comes from us.
Right. But I will say it does not increase God's kingdom at all. There's a tradition of the Prophet Muhammad when he said, peace be upon him, that if all of you worship God in the best of ways, it would not increase his kingdom one iota. And if all of you rebelled against God in the worst of ways, it would not decrease his kingdom in one iota.
That doesn't make sense to me.
Well, because it does, because God is infinite. How can you add to infinity? You can't.
Well,
Rationally, you can't.
When I look at mathematics, I look at 1/3 when it's taken into a fraction is 0.333.
Sure.
It goes on forever.
Sure.
So it's infinite. It goes on forever, but the process had to start somewhere. The frequency had to start
For us,
somewhere.
God is the beginning and the end. He's timeless. He created time. We're still trying to contextualize God.
But he says he wants people to worship him.
He does. I agree with you.
And he is jealous if people don't worship him. Correct. So isn't jealous some kind of emotion with some kind of energetic
It's not
bond?
in the way we can understand it, because we are so confined within the physical realm.
Let's try the best way we can, brother.
The best we can. Look, in our philosophy, it's God loves for us to have a relationship with him. He loves that. He cherishes it. He values it.
I don't disagree with that.
But the Quran also mentions he could destroy us all and it wouldn't harm him the least.
I don't.
And he has. I mean, you look at Sodom and Gomorrah when they were celebrating their indecent ways.
We'll get into that. We'll get into that. Let's stick on this for a second before we start having attack pieces. Okay.
Let's save that for later.
Let's save that for later, man.
Sure.
We are both in agreement that this entity called God, what I would call the prime creator, wants us to worship him. The only thing we're in disagreement in is that he actually gets something
Whether
out of
he
this.
gets something. For me, it all focuses on gratitude. In the Islamic tradition, the essence of worship is just to be grateful to God.
Do you have kids?
I do. I got 4 beautiful kids.
Do you have your kids wake up every day and worship you?
No.
No, I don't either.
But if they never...
So my question is, they respect you.
They respect me, yes.
I respect God.
Sure.
I don't ask my kids to worship me. I ask them to respect me. Why do I have to, as a person of free will, not just do all the tenets that he asks me? Be a good husband, provide for your kids, don't drink alcohol, don't spread the word of, negative anything. Why doing that right there is not enough? Why do I have to give him worship? And if I'm giving all this right stuff and I'm just choosing not to give him my energy because it's coming from me, whether it helps him or accepts it, that we can debate. Why do I have to do that? Why is this not enough?
You know, to be frank with you, it comes down to whether he asked of it or not. If he exists and he asked us to worship him, then we should. If he exists and didn't ask us to worship him, then we don't need to.
Free will.
Free will. But I believe when you study...
Why if I have free will, am I supposed to do something?
Because he asked you to. He is the sovereign. He is the king. He's the provider. He is the sustainer. He's the rule giver.
That doesn't mean I agree with everything
well, he's
you're
giving
saying.
you the free will not to, but there's consequences. So what he said is, okay, listen, in this life, I will give good to everyone. Those who worship me.
What about the people who are dying of hunger, dying of war? Did they get to them as well?
You know, there's a saying that this life for the disbeliever is paradise, no matter how bad it gets, compared to what's in the next life. And this life,
misery enjoys company, something like that.
And this life for the believer is prison, no matter how good it gets.
So this is a prison
for the believer. Yes, absolutely. I mean, there was a blacksmith, and you know, he's poor, he's working in the heat, tired, and he saw a Muslim king coming on his cavalry and his horses, and he asked him, "How can this world be my prison? Your prison when you're a king, and it's my paradise when I live so miserably." He said, "Listen. Compared to the paradise that awaits me, this is a prison. And compared to that..."
But there's no proof of that. That's what I'm saying. How can you believe something so much if there's no evidence? Because, for instance, if I told you, you're born on the 5th, and that means you're a homebody and you never travel anywhere. Your base of what you believe in, what I'm telling you from numerology and astrology, would be like, yo, this is bullshit. But yet I told you people born on the 5th travel. You basically said
promise
that. Hold on, let me finish. So I actually had some,
experiential proof. So I have experiential proof.
How do you have proof of that?
For me, it's experiential, right? You said you're born on the 5th, you travel, this checks.
Yes,
okay?
Yes. Okay.
For me, it's the Quran says that I will find peace through remembering God. I can go through chaos. I can lose everything. I have lost everything. I sit and I remember God. I say, Allah, 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 Allah.
Is it possible that just helps you and not other people?
No, I think it can help everyone. I guarantee it.
But
And I will offer.
You can't see everyone through their own eyes.
Well, what I will offer, and I think my Twitter, my Instagram is available. If you're going through any struggle, message me, and free of charge, I will teach you some meditations, and you try them. No obligation, just try them, and you report back to me whether they helped or not. And I think if you try them, you will see the fruits.
I think they'll help some people. I don't think they'll help others, because there's no one size fit all. We all go through different issues. We all go through different problems in life. At the end of the day, we all live and die, but our journeys are all different.
It's true, but if you recognize this life is short, the problem that people suffer so much is because they give this world too much weight. The point that I'm getting to, there's a tradition of the Prophet Muhammad. He said on the day of judgment, and this will put the problem of evil in perspective. God will take the most evil, successful man. He lived the best life, but he was evil, right? Just caused a lot of corruption, oppression. No, I'm not.
Okay.
In fact, Islam teaches us to excel in gaining wealth and using that to do good in this world.
Okay.
But this was an evil person, okay? He will dip him into hellfire for 1 second, and he will say, "Did you ever enjoy your life?" And the person will say, "No, God, I've never enjoyed anything in this world," because the eternity is so great compared to the temporary nature of this world. Then he will take the most miserable righteous man who suffered the most in this world, will put him in eternal paradise for a moment, and then ask him, "Did you ever suffer?" He'll say, "No, I never suffered." This life is inconsequential. A lot of atheists, when I engage with them, I realize their problem is they give this world too much
What is the point of this life? To worship God?
It's to build a unique relationship with God that the angels can never build.
Okay, so he basically put us down here so we build a relationship with him.
Yes.
So we live in a material existence, but the point of this material existence is to basically build a spirit.
Yes.
To build
but you need both.
Hold on. I'm just trying to get it. So the point of this material existence, and you agree, this is one.
Sure.
Is to build a spiritual relationship with God. Does that make sense?
It makes 100% sense. And the reason it does is because you have the material. You can choose. There's people who worship this world. There's people whose only pleasure they derive is from this world. And the thing is, it's a world of delusion. The Quran mentions
I believe this is all an illusion too.
The Quran
based on what I believe, this is all a virtual reality.
So listen, a lot of the things you come to believe, you may call it a virtual reality. The Quran calls it an illusion. It is an illusion compared to the reality of the hereafter. Look, a lot of what you believe is consistent with Islamic teachings.
What about numerology, astrology? Is that consistent with Islamic teachings?
I don't know enough about it to comment. No, that's my safe answer.
That's the first time you took a safe answer today. So we'll give him one.
I gotta be allowed one safe answer.
Well done.
But what I will tell you is that the Quran acknowledges there's a lot of sciences out there that are beyond our full comprehension. There's a lot of secrets to this universe, and it is possible for people to tap into it. Now, it could be dangerous or it could be beneficial depending on the engagement.
How can knowledge be dangerous?
I mean, the Quran speaks about people who learned a sort of witchcraft that destroys families, turns people apart from each other.
LGBT?
Very certainly possible.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So there is harmful knowledge, and we seek protection from knowledge.
I think holding your ankles is very harmful knowledge.
One of the things we have in Islam, it's called maqasid al-sharia, the goals of sharia, which is what Islam seeks to protect, and that is protection. And I think many of us watching this would agree. Islam seeks to protect religion, life, intellect, honor, and lineage.
I don't think everyone would agree with that.
Many people would.
Okay.
And maybe they may disagree with the religion one, but on the others, you would agree we should protect life, we should protect wealth, we should protect honor.
So is Islam consistent with capitalism or communism?
No, definitely on the capitalist side. Absolutely on the capitalist side.
Why is interest forbidden then?
Because in interest, one party is not sharing equally in the risk. Islam says we should do partnership in business. It doesn't want people just to hoard wealth and then lend it out where they have a guaranteed return.
How is that not communism?
Because communism is a collective. We don't have
That's what you just said. You said the people have to share in the wealth.
No.
You just said that.
So let me clarify that. When I say share, I mean invest. So me and you want to start a venture, we should come in, equal stakes or whatever. I own 10%. If the business 10x's, I should get 10x. I shouldn't just get 10%. I should get 10x my investment. But if the business goes down to 90%, I should also lose 90%. We should all have an equal stake. We should share in the risk.
But there's people who are like, for instance, banks.
Sure.
And they're in the business of loaning money.
Sure.
Why should they share in the risk if that's their business? People come to them seeking capital so they can get a business. Why should the bank share in the risk if that business venture fails? To avoid
what we saw. So the reason the 2007, 2008 market crash happened is because of the lending practices. What Islam says, you could still get a loan from the bank, but the bank is a partner in the house. And you're buying. It's all about having a product and not just trading money for money.
2007, 2008 housing crisis was given out because they started giving people who couldn't afford
Loans who defaulted.
and that was basically done based off liberal democratic policies, based off giving people who are so-called minorities those loans. So I could say that is bad capitalism.
Well, I would say it
bad
also
socialism that happened that led to that. So I would push back on that one.
Look, the whole concept with Islam is, look, if you're in a closed economy, right? Money cannot make money without there being a third item, a product. Islam says there should be a product involved in all financial transactions. Because if we just live in this room and I have $1 million and I give you $1 million, but you got to pay me back $1,100,000, where's that 100,000 going to come from? There has to be
the risk you take by taking that. There has to be some risk.
So what we're saying is we should share in the risk. If you take this money and it goes great.
What if they don't want to share in the risk?
If they don't want to share in the risk,
why is that illegal?
It's disadvantaging those without.
No. That's the terms that people take. They either take the terms or they don't.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that free will? Isn't that free choice?
It's free will, and there's consequences. Again, when the 2007-2008 market crashed, a lot of my wealthy friends, they said their only investments that didn't get toppled were those with Sharia compliant investments in Malaysia.
Okay. This is why. Okay. Now let's go to what is Sharia compliant investments. Go into that.
Great question. So Sharia compliant investment is equity based. That's the difference. It's not interest based, it's equity based. So when I put in money into a project, I'm putting it in and I'm getting equity. So I have a stake in the game. And then it's in my interest that the business succeeds, because the more it succeeds, the more money I make. And at the same time, if the business goes down, I'm going to lose money.
That's not communism?
No, man, it isn't communism. Because communism, is collective. That
sounds like it's leading down the
No, it doesn't lead.
Socialism.
It doesn't.
It really does.
The Islamic rules are very rigid. My wealth is my wealth, right? Nobody has a right to it. Now, I am obligated to give a small percentage in charity. That is to help those that are in need.
What percentage?
2.5% of my savings. Now, the interesting thing, and I think you'll like this.
Why does it say savings?
I think you will like this if you think about it. I want you to think about it for a moment. The problem with the U.S. is it generally one of the problems. Okay, we'll talk about that later. But one of the problems is they tax income, which actually reduces the incentive to make income. Whereas Islam taxes savings. It reduces the incentives to just stockpile cash. It encourages investment. And that's the whole point. You want to encourage investment. You want to encourage spending. If you're spending and you're investing and you're building, then you don't have to pay that tax.
That would make sense. That would also stop these corporations from they wouldn't sell their stock. They'll take loans up against their stock and basically avoid taxes that way. So I understand this.
So it wants to encourage circulation of wealth.
It seems like that type of system would be anti-monopoly, but it also seems like a whole bunch of people at the top could just get together and.
The Quran actually warns against that. It warns against that.
So it's like a double-edged sword. It seems on the surface that's against monopoly, but if it's nothing but rich people getting involved, then they actually control the monopoly against controlling monopolies.
Well, the thing is, but again, that's why the interest is prohibited. The idea is when these wealthy people have money, they shouldn't just lend it out like that. They should get involved with people in business partnerships. Find somebody who has the skill set, has the knowledge, invest with them, give them equity, grow together, and let's society as a whole rise. There were times in the Ottoman Empire, there were times in the Islamic Empire where people would travel from city to city looking where they could give out charity. They couldn't find anyone to accept it. Because of the Islamic economic system, everybody prospered, and it wasn't prospering in collective wealth. Let me get to my caveat. It wasn't a collective wealth; it was individual wealth that they owned, that they controlled, because they were doing business together. And people talk about this. You could either try to invest by yourself, or you can bring.
You know what that sounds like?
What?
Fascism.
No,
that's exactly what it sounds like.
Fascism again goes back to the control of the state.
But in Islam, if it's controlling how people can do business through certain aspects, it's basically making sure there's a merger by default.
No. There's always state regulation. You never have regulation-free economics. It just doesn't happen. So
But I'm trying to tell you, this sounds a little bit more than fascism than capitalism.
If you look at it, the rules are simple. Do not sell what you don't have. Don't do options and all this. Don't sell what you don't have. Don't charge a flat interest rate. Rather, have equity and go up and down. Those are the only two major limitations. And frankly, don't invest in things that destroy the soul, the family, the household, like pornography, like alcohol.
I get it.
So those are the rules, simple rules, and they work. And brother, I've made good money this way. You know, I know a lot of people that have.
So you're a capitalist.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And look, my ambition is to continue to be as wealthy and successful as I can be, and use my wealth and influence to leave a positive impact and legacy, and make sure my family's taken care of while I'm doing it.
That sounds all good, but what you were describing to me has definitely echoes of fascism, where the state and the basically big business merge.
We see this with the whole movement right now with the Pride Month and everything.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
I'm not going to jump into it. What I'm saying is people left without any level of regulation could also destroy themselves. There needs to be.
I'm not disagreeing. Yeah. I'm just saying there's different systems.
There is.
So first it was sounding like socialism,
right,
what you were saying, but then I understood what you're basically saying, that looked a lot more like fascism than socialism. Let me tell you this, man. Sure. Let's go back to World War I. You sound like a student in history, correct? Sure. If what you're saying is Islam is a lot closer to capitalism than it is to others.
Yes.
Why is it that the Ottoman Empire and most of the Muslim nations were joining with Germany, not only in World War I, but World War II? Hitler actually gave copies of the Quran to his, Islamic allies. So it basically, based off history, based off what you're telling me, it seems like the Islamists, when they got involved in world politics, looks like they backed the fascists.
Look, first of all, when Hitler was doing what he was doing in Germany, there was actually a lot of Muslims that sheltered Jewish families.
Not disagreeing with that. That's good, man. He's good. Yeah. He's good. He's good.
You go back to when Spain, with Ferdinand, was persecuting the Jews and the Muslims. The Ottomans sent ships. And they welcomed.
I'm not disagreeing.
Yeah, I know you don't, but okay. I want to educate some of your viewers.
I got that. So we're just talking about that specific.
So that specific.
And by the way, this is much more current, modern world history we're talking about.
Well,
so
I will say,
let's address that.
So to get into this, but the reason I share this, a lot of viewers don't know. I mean, some people have this because the media's brainwashed people. They think Muslims hate you, and you're Jewish, and you're my brother. Yeah, okay. Exactly. Good, we're not killing each other. We'll see how intense the debate goes. But no, I'm joking. But in reality, again, people are brainwashed. That's why I like to bring up these facts. Now, when it comes to the fall of the Ottoman Empire, I believe the problem at that time was they lost their own soul. They lost themselves. They misaligned. They made a lot of disastrous decisions.
Well, of course they misaligned. They were delusional.
And I think if you visit Istanbul, I want to encourage you to visit Istanbul. I love Istanbul because it brings the old and the new together, the East and the West. It's a crazy experience. We'll talk about that off the camera. Anyways, the point is, my brother, if you visit Istanbul, you go to the old palace, the Topkapi Palace, where the caliphate was based out of. And it's a beautiful palace in nature on top of the mountains spread out. And it brings soul, heart, spirituality, science,
took it by force from the Christians.
Constantinople. Yes. Yeah, we'll talk about that later afterwards. Hey, and we're proud of it. Anyway, we'll talk about that.
Actually, from the Byzantine Empire.
Yeah, from the Byzantines.
If we want to be honest. But by the way, I believe that, what was the Grand Vizier, not the Grand Vizier, but the guy above the Grand Vizier. The Sultan. What was the Sultan that took the name? Muhammad?
Fatih Sultan Muhammad.
Okay, he was the one who took
He was prophesized by Prophet Muhammad, by the way. Here's the amazing...
But he's the one who took Constantinople, right?
He is.
I have studied that man. He was in power when he was young. Then they took his father.
And then he gave it back to the father.
Now, I looked at this man. I got to say, if there was a Julius Caesar from an Islamic standpoint, that was him, wasn't it?
He was an incredible leader, and I will tell you the story. Go back 1,400 years. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is in Medina. There's a 10,000-man strong army surrounding their city. They are digging a trench, and they found a rock, and nobody could break this rock. So he took an axe or whatever you call it, and he hit it, and a light shone. And he said, Allahu Akbar, God is great. And what did he say? He said, you will conquer Constantinople. It will happen.
I know the story.
And it will be the best of leaders and the best of armies. He prophesied it.
How many people failed before him, including his father?
Many. I don't know the numbers.
17,
but yeah,
18,
it was miraculous what he did.
And he was smart enough to take the ships across land.
Yes.
Because they had this little mount, but it had a steel thing. You could never get past it. So they actually carried the ships 15 miles inland, and they finally defeated them. And again, that's a sad day for Christians, but I gotta admit, man, and that guy from I can't even pronounce his name. What's his name again?
So Fatah Sultan Muhammad, I just texted the information, and
look him up.
Right.
In my opinion, one of the greatest leaders in world history.
One of the movies that shaped me growing up and that I love the most, it's actually a cartoon, and it's available on YouTube. It's in the name of the Sultan. I just texted the name if they want to put it on the screen, Fatah Sultan Muhammad. I encourage your viewers to watch it. It's an incredible story of how Constantinople was conquered. Obviously, it's Muslim propaganda, but it's beautiful and it's inspiring. It's an inspiring story.
I found it just so interesting that it finally fell to him because he was smarter, not because the cannons worked, not because all his secret weapons worked, but because he outsmarted everybody. He took the ships inland, carried them 15 miles. It never even thought to anyone to do that before.
And he was driven by faith. It wasn't faith alone.
Thing for some
exactly. It wasn't faith alone. It wasn't just.
But not everyone needs it.
He wasn't. You don't need it to succeed in this life. No, I don't believe you need faith to succeed in this life. I do believe it makes you happier. I know that's debatable. How do you measure happiness? And I told people I'm happy to help them on that journey. But you don't. In fact, one of the great Muslim scholars.
Do you think one size fits all for everybody?
I believe there's some universals. We all need water, right? Okay. We all need to eat. There's some universals.
But personality is not universal.
No, personalities are different. And even temperament
logic is universal, but the way people perform their opinions based on perception and reality is not. So when you say things like a blank statement, this covers everyone, that's almost never true.
One of the greatest Muslim scholars, I think this is something you'd agree with, Ash-Shatibi, he said, God will give victory and success to a disbelieving nation that upholds justice. And he will not give victory and success to a believing nation that is unjust, because you need justice to survive in this world, not faith.
Is justice provided by Islamic courts?
In true Islamic courts, I believe so, absolutely.
What are true Islamic courts?
I think those that we saw under the Ottoman Empire earlier on, and for hundreds and hundreds of years under Islamic Empire,
at the very end of the empire was very, very corrupt.
Oh, that takes me back to the point. So if you visit the Topkapi Palace, you see it was a beautiful spiritual place. Yes. Then the Ottomans, in the last 100 years, they moved into Dolmabahce Palace. The Dolmabahce Palace was a copy of Europe, right? It was just opulence. It was materialism absent the spiritual. I believe in balance, and Islam preaches balance. If you go on one side or the other too much, you lose the weight.
It's interesting you believe in balance, but when it comes down to, when I talk about balance about God, that he's not so benevolent, he has to be balanced. You push back on that. You push back on that. Isn't it universal?
Look, when it comes to God, we cannot forget.
There's no consistency?
No. There is consistency, but he's intense in punishment. He has a wrath. He has a vengeance.
Do we have one?
Within our capacity. But what I want to finish with that point is, he has written in the Islamic tradition that his mercy prevails over his wrath. There was an entire Walking Dead episode with that title. And as a Muslim,
that's crazy.
Seeing a
from Islamic theology to Walking Dead, I don't think anyone's ever seen that.
Listen, I'm an American. I grew up in this country. I enjoy the entertainment. But as a Muslim, seeing such a pivotal
Rick Grimes,
quote, quoted in popular culture, it made me feel good, man. It's good not to always be presented in the negative light. I grew up as a Muslim, always being painted as the terrorist, the misogynist, the whatever, anti-Semite, whatever you want to name it. And it's just good not to be beaten on by the media all the time in that rare occasion. And that was the theme of that episode. In that episode, was Rick Grimes' mercy was greater than his wrath. But that's a universal rule. Islam does teach forgiveness. So I do believe God is merciful, but he'll still hold you to account if you.
What about people? Are they allowed to have revenge?
Revenge, interesting question. Look, we have an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth.
Revenge is permitted in the Quran.
Revenge is permitted, but do not transgress. God says you can check them like they checked you. You can take back what they took from you, but do not transgress, do not oppress.
Someone killed your family, you're allowed to kill them?
To them, yes.
Okay.
And then the Islamic courts would do that. And it would be a public execution, not after 20 years locked up and then you get your last meal and all of this. It would be a public execution. And I don't care if people condemn Islam about this. It's about preserving against corruption in society.
I am all for French Revolution style
Right.
public executions.
Hold people
I would
accountable.
take it a step further. I'll cut their freaking organs out and then sell it to the highest bidder so we can actually give it to people in need.
Well, where we would, I mean, you can't sell the highest bidder and give it to those in need.
No, you can. You can.
You're going to give it to the wealthy. What we want to do.
You do balance. Some you sell, the others finance people in need.
So even within it's interesting because within the Islamic framework, they debated organ transplants and they said, is this permissible or not? There's no clear text on it. So what they had to do is one of the tools of Islamic jurisprudence is analytical reasoning. And what they said is Islam teaches preservation of life. So if someone, is dying or died and giving up their organ would save their life.
What were the arguments against it?
The main argument against it was that they don't want it restricted simply to those who can afford it, to the wealthy. There needs to be access even to those without
There's
a
got
means.
to be another reason than just the wealthy.
Maybe
That's not enough.
desecration of body.
Okay.
Because the body is believed to be sacred. Prophet
Aren't you
Muhammad
supposed to bury the body in Islam
very
within 20?
quickly? Yes, and in the earth within 24 hours, even without a casket, if possible. You wrap them in a sheet. You return. We say what the Quran says. We created you from it, and we will return you to it. And then we will bring you back from it another time.
Okay.
So
that's another thing I agree with the Quran, public executions. Do they actually cut hands off?
I mean, look, I'm not going to whitewash my faith with all due respect. There is the principle of amputation of the hand for burglars, for those who commit highway robbery.
Do you think that's right?
Look, yeah, I mean, I stand by the Quran. Be very clear with you.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
If someone steals something, you cut off the whole hand.
Right.
Why the fuck can't you just cut off a finger?
Send a strong message.
No, why can't you cut off a finger? Isn't that strong enough
It
message?
was the whole hand that stole. I'm going to get blasted for this. But listen, here's the deal.
Come on, man. You cut off a finger. You learned this lesson. See, that's a little bit harsh, man.
Look,
that's a little bit harsh.
I mean, highway robbery is harsh. So let me be clear, though, on the restrictions. This was for bandits, for pirates. In other societies, actually punish them by execution, cutting off their heads, not their hands. Islam says, no, don't cut off their heads.
Oh, merciful, I see. Well, how about a finger instead, man?
Listen, we follow.
Is this something I could argue with the imam about, or would this?
It wouldn't go anywhere because it's in the Quran.
It's at the cut off the hand.
It's in the Quran.
Can't you interpret that as part of the hand? Can't you make that interpretation?
Look, the idea is
you're a lawyer. I'm trying to see.
We don't play around with revelation, and we believe that when God revealed His final testament to humanity, it's good for all time. But again, the problem with the West, and they always demonize Sharia. Oh my God, Sharia is about cutting off hands, and they misapply. It isn't about somebody goes and steals food because they're hungry. You don't cut off their hand. In fact,
what do you do to them?
You provide them opportunity to work and earn a living. Okay. That was how the Sultan was. In fact, the Sultan, when somebody would steal,
sultans.
The righteous Sultan.
I know. I actually know history.
Sultan. Yeah, the righteous Sultan. The righteous Sultan would blame themselves when there were people that were, suffering and stealing from hunger. He took that as a failure on his part that he hasn't created economic opportunities. Again, not just giving people, but giving them the opportunity to earn by their own sweat. The Prophet Muhammad taught that the person who goes to sleep tired from an honest day's work goes to sleep with their sins forgiven. Once his companions saw.
Does it depend what the sins are?
I mean, so there's major sins. Those are not forgiven by hard days. Murder, homosexuality, fornication, alcohol, things that can destroy society. Those are major sins.
Having a drink is just as bad as holding your ankles to someone?
Do you know why? Do you know why it's no.
Seems
I'm not saying it's just as bad, but the issue is this.
I've seen a lot of Muslims drink. I don't think that's as bad as them holding ankles.
The issue with alcohol, somebody asked him, what's the worst, fornication, murder, or alcohol? And he said alcohol. Why? Let me give you, but you got to follow the example. Don't take it too literal. Follow the example. He said because there was this one man.
Talk your way out of this one, bro.
Look, he said there was a man who drank and then fornicated while he was drunk and then got her pregnant and then he killed her to hide the pregnancy. So he ended up through one thing, he did all of them. We believe, as you were saying.
You don't think that could happen to someone who doesn't drink?
It can. It can.
But come on, man.
But the idea, again, I mean,
I'll push back on that
no,
example.
You feel free, but tell me something.
One.
How many people die from DUIs every year?
Okay, so don't drive.
Well, that's the point. The point is it can lead to destruction of society. It can lead to a lot of harm. Alcohol breaks families. It leads to child abuse. It leads to domestic violence. I know you agree with me.
But you're not going to convince me that drinking alcohol is worse than someone raping someone.
No, I agree with you. Listen, to be candid, I do think those are worse sins. I didn't say they're equal.
So you disagree with the Quran?
No, the Quran doesn't say they're equal. I just said they're all major sins. One could be more major than the next, right?
Is there a list of them in the Quran?
Not necessarily in the Quran, but in the literature, yes. There's major sins and minor sins.
What's the biggest sin?
Associating partners with God. not giving an equal to the Creator.
Hold on.
Yes.
Let's go there.
Yes.
So this is not actually not worshiping the Creator. That's saying that someone is equal to the Creator.
Yes.
What if I believe there's many gods, but there's only one prime Creator?
That is the way of a lot of the polytheists around the time of the Prophet Muhammad. They believed there was a great God in the heaven and many like semi-gods.
Yes, that's what I believe. So is that inconsistent with the Quran?
That is inconsistent, because he even said, listen, when you're out at sea and you're drowning, who do you call? The one in the heaven. When you need the one in heaven. So let go of the other ones.
God doesn't have lieutenants?
No,
I got lieutenants. You got lieutenants.
Yeah, but we're not God, brother, as you said.
I understand that.
God is free of need. He has no equal. There's nothing like him.
So what does he have angels for?
Angels are just to worship him. Just a small reflection of his greatness. Now listen, we believe...
So he does have people on his team.
Well, I mean, the whole universe is his.
The
whole universe
is he micromanaging everything?
Look, you have to understand something.
I got pushed back, bro.
No, I love it, bro. I love respect, man. Respect. I appreciate it. Listen. One of the things that opened my eyes was learning that for God, there's no such thing as big or small, because he's infinite. Big or small is only if you're not infinite. So one person dies, 1 million people die, same thing. Well, in terms of management, now the Quran actually says if you kill one person, it's as if you've killed all humanity. And if you save a life, it's as if you've saved all humanity.
What about an animal?
To kill an animal needlessly is not good. But
so if you kill it, you have to eat the meat.
You just got to eat it. Use it.
All for it.
Don't just waste. Don't shed blood. But hey, nothing wrong. Listen, God made animals for us to benefit from them. Horses to ride, cattle to eat. This is part of his perfect design.
If you go to America and you get a hamburger, no problem. You go to India, the cow is holy.
Yeah, and you will get beaten for
pretty much same way of drawing a picture of the prophet.
Sure,
you're gonna get hurt.
Sure.
My question is, who are you to decide what animals are holy and who
Thank
isn't?
you. So with us, again, we take everything back to the Quran. If the Quran is from God, then it makes sense we're following it. If it isn't, then we're wasting our time. Mm-hmm. I'll be very frank with you. Mm-hmm. But just through my personal experience, through my knowledge, I have zero doubt. I would die for the Quran. I genuinely have strong enough belief in the Quran. I have zero doubt that it's from other than God. Mm-hmm. And I love it. But it makes me a better person. What is it driving me to be?
Zero?
Sorry?
Zero
doubt.
Not
Zero.
just 99.
And I've tested it. Not
99.999999.
No. Listen, growing up as an American Muslim and the sacrifices I've had to make for my faith, and just, you got to understand, growing up, I was always bullied. I was the underdog. I was like the only Muslim in school. I was called terrorist, bin Laden.
But stop. Look at these debating skills that you actually picked up by being picked on, by being talked shit to. Look at the ways you're able to debate. You're able to articulate now because of what those people did to you.
Well, and that's why we genuinely believe nothing bad happens to a believer. There's good in everything. Even me getting bullied and what I went through.
But you getting bullied actually makes you a man.
Exactly.
Okay,
so we're in agreement.
But you actually committing sin, that might be a whole different ballgame.
Even me sinning, and we all sin, and ain't nobody gonna come up and say they're perfect. We've all had moments of weakness. Teresa? She's definitely sinned, bro. Everybody sinned. All right.
You think she cheated on her man?
I don't know. I'm not getting into that, bro. I don't have time for that drama. But anyway, here's the thing: the scholars have said a sin that humbles you is better than a righteous deed that makes you arrogant. Sometimes you got to be humbled so you can have compassion, empathy, and you can help people. I got a lot of young, successful kids. Maybe they're struggling with fornication, with alcohol, with other issues, and they come to me because they feel that I can mentor them and advise them and push them in the right direction.
That's why they come to you.
Amen. Hey, it's a gift. It's a gift. It's a gift from God.
Wait. No. I'll push back on that. We just agreed that you got attacked when you were a little kid.
Yes.
You were basically pushed back. You were the only Muslim, and you were made fun of, and you learned all this.
Correct.
So why is that a gift from God if you actually put in the work?
I will still listen because one, I could have not put in the work. I could.
But you did.
But I say
so. Everything you did is because of God. Come on, man.
I say. Listen, that's my gratitude to Him. I say He blessed me to have faith, to stay perseverant.
Faith in yourself,
even the ability. God helps those who help themselves. I'm with you. God doesn't just tell us to worship Him and not put in the effort. We got to put in the effort.
So why are you thanking Him and not yourself?
Listen, I am nothing. I could lose my ability to speak tomorrow.
No one's debating that. But because of what you went through,
I know.
You accomplished what you did. It's not because of Him. It's because you accomplished that.
My brother, He created. Did I bring myself into existence? I didn't.
You created your kid, so everything your kid
didn't.
does is your accomplishment?
No, listen.
Everything your kid does is your accomplishment? No. You trained your kid, you gave him love, you tried to give him some morals, but what he accomplished is his accomplishments, not yours, correct?
But well, he's still
Gotcha.
No. If my wife didn't conceive him, he wouldn't be here. And that's why in the Islamic tradition, children actually are always indebted to their parents. There was a man who carried his mother on pilgrimage from Iraq to Mecca on his back. And he asked a scholar, did I pay her back for what she's done for me? He said, you didn't pay her back for one moan of pain she gave while giving birth to you. So we are indebted. Islam is a religion of gratitude. We believe in a hierarchy of gratitude. And the Quran actually says, I command you to worship.
Are men and women equal?
Complementary, but they are different. Complementary.
They're equal.
Okay, when it comes to equal, they're equal in
I'll make this easier. I don't think they're equal.
Yeah, no.
So I'll make this easier for you.
I know. Listen, they're equal in their opportunity to come closer to God, but they have different roles, different responsibilities. They're not the same.
Again, you're avoiding the question.
They're not
you're trying to work around it.
Well, no,
it's
such a no. With all due respect, it's a vague question.
No, it's not.
I believe they're both equally beloved to God.
Nice, safe answer.
But I mean, it's the truth.
When it comes to society,
but men are the Quran says men are the maintainers and protectors of
the
women.
Leaders?
Yes.
Okay.
They're not equal in leadership role. They're not equal in responsibility.
That's what I was
correct.
looking
Yeah.
for.
If it's that, no. And the problem is you have a society where everyone is the same. There's no leadership. It's chaos. It's anarchy. Islam is against anarchy. What's it?
Man, people calling me the devil already, man. I'm the devil already. I got it, man. Listen,
You're not the devil, brother. I'm loving this, and I'm grateful for your audience.
I am far from the devil. If I was the devil, you guys would be in good shape.
It wouldn't be bad, bro. I take you as a devil over the real one any day, brother. Any day.
I'm definitely not a saint, but now let's talk about some of the stuff we have in agreement.
Sure.
It's the 6 months, 666, and it just so happens that Pride Month is June, the 6th month. Now, I believe homosexual men, some of the most vile things on this planet. They spread STDs. They don't spread anything that's positive. And again, I'm sure some of them are good entertainers, good at making people laugh. I'm sure a percentage of them are good people. But the fact of the matter is, when you have lesbians who adopt couples, adopt little boys, little girls. They don't care if it's a little boy or little girl. It's 50-50.
Sure.
When you have gay homosexual couples who adopt, 90% of it is boys. I got to tell you, brother, that math bothers me. That math really bothers me because I start thinking, wait a second, why are they so interested in having little boys around? Why are these LGBT so interested? Like when I was younger, I noticed they always wanted to get by the kids in the Boy Scouts. Why are you so interested in being the headmaster of a Boy Scout?
I think, listen, it's a form of abuse. I just read a crazy article, a new ruling. This just happened in the United States. There is a man, physically a man, okay, who imagines himself to be a woman, has all the physical parts of a man, but just pretends to be a woman, and he sued a woman's spa, where women go, get undressed, get personal care, and he won. The court ruled that this physical man, biological man, has the right to invade a woman's private space where women want to be modest, where they want to be taken care of. This is insanity. And what I think, look, Pride Month is extremely problematic.
Is Islam the cure to that insanity?
I believe it is. It's the last religion remaining standing against it. You have churches now. You have churches that put the gay pride flag. Look, listen, inconsistent with the whole book.
All you Christians out there who say, why do I promote Islam? I don't promote Islam. I'm not a Muslim. And all due respect, I'll never be a Muslim. Okay?
You never know. Okay? Don't say never.
No, I just said
I'll see what I can do.
It's not going to work, brother.
Inshallah it will.
When it comes down to it, I'll never be a Muslim. I'll never be any religion. But I got to tell you, Christians out there, I see the LGBT George Floyding you. They're putting a knee on your fucking neck. They're fucking telling you what they're going to teach your kids. They even have a song where they say, we're coming for your children. They have this song. Do you understand what brainwashing is? I can't respect the Christians in America. I can't respect them in Canada. I can't respect them in the EU. Maybe the ones in Russia, the ones in Ukraine, the ones in Romania that actually put up resistance to that crap. But you know what? I remember the LGBT trying to make a big fuss over the World Cup.
Oh, I remember that when Qatar stood strong.
And they tried to come to you, and they tried to enforce their values. And what did Islam do? So I'm sorry. I'm not religious. I never will be. But when I see what's going on in the world, the only people I see standing up to them are people like this. They usually have beards like this. They usually wear little hats like that. But that's what they do. And I consider them my allies right now because I don't see the Christians stepping up. I'm sorry. They're not stepping up. You have LGBT flags on Christians' church,
on pastors and priests. I mean, it's insanity. And for me, it's inconsistent and it's insincere. And I've actually...
It's a mental fucking illness. Call it what the fuck it is. It's a mental illness. Do you agree?
I do think it's... Yes. And I think, listen, I've reached out to priests. I've reached out to rabbis that are supporting...
You're welcome on this show.
You're welcome.
If you are a priest or a rabbi who supports homosexuality... Get a hold of me. You're welcome on this show.
Let's talk.
We're more than open to debate with you publicly.
Yes.
Okay? We don't run from anybody here.
It's inconsistent. And my problem is this. You have it in the Torah, the Injil, the Gospel, and the Quran where God condemns homosexuality. All right? It's very clear. How can you be openly celebrating something God condemns? Okay, that is the problem. That is like rebellion. It's a rebellion against God. It's insanity.
I don't even need that though.
Sure.
I just know that when two guys get together, something called syphilis happens.
Yeah.
STDs happen. Homosexuals spread STDs at 60-1 compared to heterosexuals. Wow. Why is that not a problem?
Yeah.
Why is that not an issue? Second, why should I have to pay with my tax dollars for your lifestyle choices?
And not to mention...
No. Think about this. These people go to hospital with their monkeypox. Why the fuck do we as straights have to pay because they do it?
California now is trying to pass a law where your kid imagines he's an astronaut, doesn't make him an astronaut. Imagine he's a fairy, doesn't make him a fairy. But all of a sudden your boy thinks he's a girl and you got to chop off his private parts. I mean, and if you don't support their transition, the government wants to hold you accountable for how you raised your children. Especially when they're going through a little delusion because of the corruption of society, confusing the kids. Look, the Quran says straight up, do not be like those who forgot God, so God made them forget themselves. They are the open transgressors. And the word about transgression actually relates to sort of the sexual deviance. Mm-hmm. You know, when you forget your creator, you don't even know what you are. You don't even know what a man or a woman is. That's crazy.
I know that stuff is evil. I know that stuff is wrong, and I don't need God.
Look,
tell me how that works.
So this is what I want to get to, my brother. Islam, we believe, right, is the natural faith. It's like a blueprint within all of us.
So common sense is natural faith.
It's common sense,
So why is common sense faith?
Because it's true.
In different definitions.
No. What I'm saying is we believe God created us and he pre-programmed us with a fitra, a natural purity that is aligned with his message. And his message is aligned with our natural purity. It's how he created us. His whole message is about what's best for us. So naturally, when you reflect, you're going to come to a conclusion.
Can't we come to a conclusion that maybe a man wrote that book with common sense?
No, there's no...
Why? Why is that not possible? You weren't there, I wasn't there at the end of the day, and no one alive here is here at the end of the day. So we can't say...
What was powerful...
You can say you believe.
I do.
100%, but you can't say for 100% you know those are God's words. You cannot say that for 100%. You have not been there. You have not... You have faith that it is, but you can't say that.
So what I can't say it for anyone. People have to come to that conclusion their own self, and that's why I would encourage you, listen,
free will.
Read a translation of the Quran after this podcast. I'll post one on my Twitter for yourself and just come to your own conclusion. Reflect and see, is this likely from God or not? When I went to Mecca, Saudi Arabia, and I saw millions of people visiting the first house of worship built by Abraham, it was so powerful for my faith, because when I read the Quran, first of all, the Quran talks about Abraham going to the city of Mecca, and this is in the Bible as well, and establishing a holy center of worship there. And God commanded Abraham, call humanity to come here. And he said, God, it's in the middle of the desert. Who's going to hear me? God tells him, your job is to make the call. My job is to make them.
Sounds like a movie called The Field of Dreams.
I don't know it, but he said, I'm gonna make them answer. And it's a miracle to see now, 1,400 years later, people still flocking to the desert of Saudi Arabia to follow the footsteps of Abraham. For me, it's a miracle.
A black rock, right?
Well, it isn't a rock. It's actually a building. It's a building, and you're supposed to worship within it. But of course, people won't fit within it, so they worship.
But it basically looks like a black rock, right?
Yeah, a cube. It's a cube.
black
It's a
rock.
cube. But we're not worshiping the cube. I want to be very clear.
I got you. It's an instrument to get to God. Correct?
No, it isn't. It is not. We don't need it, and it has no intrinsic value. In fact, the Prophet Muhammad is very clear that a human being who worships God is much more sacred than that black building.
Because he has energy coming out of him, right?
Well, because they have free will.
Free will, and that
Which God loves. Doesn't need, because by definition, God has no need, but he loves.
So why is it black then?
No, that's the cover. And it was different throughout different periods of history.
Why is it black now?
Okay, so there's the stone that's there, and there's the actual cover. The stone there, we do believe there's a stone that came from heaven, which was pure as milk.
A stone that came from heaven.
Yes, that is there. It's a small piece in the corner, and that because of humanity.
Can this be tested by science to see if it actually did?
Not everything's about that, you know.
But you got to verify with technology,
there is.
correct?
I think the science. Look, I think the studies, and don't quote me. I didn't come prepared to discuss it. I will for next time. If you'll have me back.
I told you we're going back and forth.
Yeah. No, I respect that. But that it is not from this earth. The element is not from this earth. The stone's not from this earth. Just from studies of the composition of the material. I mean, even iron.
So they have done studies on the composition.
They have.
And they said it's not from this earth.
They have, and I'll try to find it and bring it for next time. But even iron, interesting enough. Iron, we believe, did not originate on Earth. It came down through a meteor. It came down to Earth.
All of it.
Yes, I don't believe
gold,
this. Not necessarily
silver.
I don't know. I'm not.
All
qualified.
metals are just iron.
No. I'm talking about iron specifically. And the Quran actually.
I think that's in my mind. I think that's aluminum.
I don't know. I'll have to double check. But the Quran actually speaks about iron being sent down to Earth, like a meteor crashing and bringing the world supply of iron that we can benefit from. So,
not from volcanoes or anything like that.
No, I think iron is extraterrestrial.
I understand that. So it's all extraterrestrial. So the Quran believes in UFOs.
I mean, it's possible. Look.
Your definition, you've read it before.
I mean, the Quran says that He created, all that exists in the heavens and the earth, and He's able to have them meet. So maybe there is beings out there that may interact with humans. In fact, there's a tradition, God knows best its accuracy, which says that there are worlds like our worlds, with Adam like our Adam, with an Abraham like our Abraham. So it could be the multiverse, God is infinite. The possibilities are infinite. But ultimately, what we're responsible for is just to be grateful. Through gratitude, we can be happy and to leave a positive legacy in this life. You cannot come close to God when you dishonor His creation, when you destroy the family structure, when you oppress and cheat and hurt others. Islam is simple. We can complicate it with all these other theories and questions.
I'm glad you said that because I live my life the same way.
Well, you're 90% Muslim, bro.
It's very simple to me, but again, I don't worship. So how can I be a Muslim?
Maybe one day you will, brother.
I will not.
It's about gratitude. Worship is gratitude.
I have gratitude for my family. Why should I put God above my own family?
He gave you your family.
No, He didn't.
He created. No,
I disagree.
See,
I'm closer to my family than I am with Him because I'm on this materialistic plane. And if I have my free will, I chose to be with them and not with Him. I could have been with Him if I wanted to, right? Maybe His decision to send me down Him. So my family, my blood is closer to God.
It's closer to God.
No, it's closer to me than God.
That was a Freudian slip from God.
Good
God came in.
Good shit.
There's a video of a guy.
That's probably me smoking too much weed.
My God. No, God is bringing the truth out.
Good
It's
stuff.
the Holy Spirit.
No, again, I consider my family first above God. Is that a problem? Does God have a problem with that?
Look, the Quran says He commands that you worship none other than Him, and then treat your.
I just told you I worship my oldest Bobby.
And then He commands you to treat your parents with excellence. It's God, and then parents, and then your spouse and children.
So parents above
spouse, yeah.
Okay, spouse above kids.
I would say yes, because how
I
are you going to
disagree?
You know why?
I just had my wife here about 2 weeks ago, and I did a podcast with her, and we both agreed we didn't know what true love is because before we had a kid. Now I'm going to ask you again. There is conditions between you and your wife getting married, correct?
Right. There's no conditions with you and your kids.
So how do you put your wife above your child?
So let me just clarify something. Look, in the hierarchy of things, I'm not saying Islam says put your wife above your children. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying to have a healthy, just as a married man, to have a healthy household, you need to have a strong relationship with your wife.
I'm not disagreeing.
Because your kids will drive you nuts. You're going to tag team to raise them.
I'm not disagreeing, but I believe people don't know what true love is until they have a kid.
I agree with that. No, I agree with you. I mean, honestly, I'll tell you something.
So it does not say that in Quran that you put your wife
No,
ahead
it doesn't
of the
say
kids.
that. No, it doesn't.
Your personal opinion?
That was my personal, just practical tips. I think.
We'll switch that one.
Well, I will even tell you something. I mean, look, I love my wife to death, but I know that the child that we share has strengthened our bond infinitely. We may not even be together if we didn't have a child together. Who knows? Because maybe it was one fight and we say, okay, we just call it quits.
Yes,
but the fact that we have a child, they bond us together, and I wouldn't trade her for the world.
I agreed.
But I thank God for my child. I mean, I know you said you did it. You slept with your wife. She conceived. She gave birth.
But see, here's the thing. I got married in 2004. I didn't have a kid till 2013.
Wow.
It's not like I didn't have sex until 2013. I didn't make sure my wife didn't take any birth control.
That was just when God gave you? Okay.
I just decided that, you know what, I'm not going to have a child until then. I decided I want a child born in a certain year to match my energy.
Sure.
I did that. I decided that. I decided when she was going to get pregnant. I decided when the C-section was coming. So hold on a second. I decided when that kid was coming out, when he was conceived, and I pulled out for about 8 straight years. I made sure I didn't slip. So if I slipped, that was God? No. That was me. And I decided when this child was coming out. Now, you can tell me that God's the reason we have souls and all that. Cool, I got it.
My other issue is how many people have tried to have kids and never did? How many people didn't try to have kids and did? You know, the fact that your desire aligned with what God allowed to happen.
Allowed.
Yes. Allowed. Oh, yes. Yes, he very easily could
have free will, but he still allowed that.
He did because
how come he allows people to be murderers and
you're
rapists?
Getting again because of the free will concept. The idea. Somebody asked, how can we? Because we do have something called.
But
faith.
he allowed them.
Well,
he allowed them that.
He
do
did,
that.
and they will be.
So why would he not allow me to do something and allow someone to do something negative?
Brother, this is the test of life. Some people are tested with kids. Some people are tested without kids. We will be questioned.
And this is what faith is for. So when you don't have the definite answers, you start throwing stuff like this. Listen, I get it, brother.
It's rational consistency, though. It's rational consistency. We all have different tests. You know, God could have made you sterile. You might have never had kids. There's people who have.
What if my dad was alcoholic and that's why it happened? You know,
or you weren't even born. I mean, look, I don't think our minds can fully comprehend the fine line between fate and destiny and our free will. You know, somebody asked the question. I don't even know if I can accurately. He's like, help me understand free will versus God's power and destiny. He said, listen, stand on one foot. Can you stand on one foot? He's like, yes. Okay, I'm standing on one foot. He's like, now stand on no feet. And he's like, I can't. He's like, that was your free will to stand on one. The fact that you couldn't stand without any is God's will.
More like gravity. Here's my definition when someone says that. When you have free will and destiny, what is the difference? Destiny is the beginning and the end. The end is already destined. The beginning is already destined. You could say it's by God.
Sure.
You can say it by the way, but the beginning and the end is destined. The journey of how we get there, that's the free will, brother. Well, they already know where we're gonna die, where you're gonna die.
Yes.
That's
already written.
The free will is the journey.
Well, we believe, in Islam, it actually teaches you can change your own destiny. That your ability to pray to God and ask Him will actually change what was written for you. Now, the counter to
that sounds like some fallacy. To me.
I mean, look, in the Islamic tradition, we believe the first thing God created was the pen and the book, and He told it right. And it's interesting, programming, right? Right. Everything that will exist, everything that will happen has already been written. Now, did God force it to be that way, or did God just know it?
It sounds like common sense.
For us, it is. We believe faith and common sense are heavily in tune. I think the main issue of our disagreement really is about gratitude to God. Do you owe everything to God? I would say by definition, God has no limits. Well, and that's why I say you're rationally flawed, my brother.
I
With
disagree.
love and respect. I know.
I disagree because when it comes down to it, that means everything I did in my life has no meaning, no value.
It does.
It's just because of Him. I refuse to believe that.
No, because He gives power to your effort. Look, there's a beautiful...
I don't give power to my own effort. My own struggles, like you said, you're over here preaching, you're over here spitting game, and you admitted this is because you were picked on when you were little.
Right.
You earned the fucking ability to fight back with that mouthpiece, yet you're giving all the praise to Him, not the experiences you went to.
And listen...
That feels like false rationale to me.
No. And look, I'm going to be rewarded for that. Like, I'm going to be rewarded. I believe I will. Yes, exactly. I believe I will.
Faith.
No, I believe I will be rewarded. I'm not taking zero credit from me. I do believe that I had a choice and of how I reacted. I could have responded to the bullying by selling.
A lot of people did.
Yeah, I could have responded by selling out.
So is that God basically not giving them enough to do it?
No,
I
believe God. I believe God looked in my heart and strengthened the good intention that I had. I believe whoever wants guidance, God will increase him in guidance. Whoever wants to go astray, God will let him go astray. God looks at what's within you and what you seek, and He will give you what you seek. وَأَنَّ لَيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى. Human being will only have what they work for. That's in the Quran. So that, and I think that's something you agree with. You will only get what you strive for.
You get in what you put out.
What you put out. That's what the Quran says. The Quran says that.
That's in numerology too.
The Quran says that.
What goes around comes around.
The Quran says that. But for me, like, to answer your question, look, one, I believe God facilitated for me to immigrate to America. I believe he gave me the ability to speak, to see, to hear. All of that enabled me to be eloquent.
Not your mom and dad.
No, they didn't, because how many kids are born without the ability to see, without the ability to hear?
Maybe your mom and dad had good genes.
God gave them those genes.
Gotcha. Amen. You see, it's a circular argument that always goes
Well, the
back.
idea, no, it's not circular. It's rationally consistent, because we're defining God as the provider of all things. That's how we define God. The one who sustains everything and is sustained by nothing. He's independent. I would just say we owe him gratitude. Okay. That's the essence of Islam, gratitude to God.
And my perception is that there's a bunch of gods. There's one Almighty. I believe the Almighty might be in a different realm. The gods that run this virtual reality that we're in, I do not believe they're good guys.
So what happens if they... Okay, go ahead, and then I'm going to challenge you.
No, you should.
I will.
I believe that when it comes down to it, they feed off our prayers. Yeah. I believe maybe your main God doesn't, but there's entities on this planet.
How do you define God? You need to define God for me.
The top guy, the prime creator. That's
so then the other ones are not God.
No, they are.
Because you just defined, brother. I got to call you out on this one. All right, you just defined God as the top guy. There can't be more than one top guy.
I said there's many gods, but there's only one prime creator. I was very specific about that.
Okay, so
I don't believe God is the mighty. That's why we say Almighty God. It means many. When you say Almighty God, you're basically saying, oh, there's many gods. No, that's the interpretation I get.
No, and I respect that.
And I think those little gods that might be in charge of this realm, I think they feed off of fear. Yeah. I think they feed off emotion. I think they feed off things like that.
Look, for
my
us,
personal belief.
No, I understand. So my faith
into something like that. That's what I believe.
And we will let the viewers go with what they believe is more rational. And that's a beautiful thing, man. God gave us all an intellect. We have to reflect. We have to think. We have to follow that which makes the most sense. But for us, we define God as the one who sustains everything and is sustained by nothing. That is my definition of God. So by my definition of God, he cannot need. By my definition of God, there cannot be other ones, because only one being. You
shouldn't demand worship then.
No, I disagree with you. I disagree.
If he doesn't need it, he shouldn't demand it. Because why? That sounds like a really, really rich person who doesn't need any money saying, I need more and more. That sounds like greed to me, my friend. No. If you don't need anything, but you demand it, there might be an issue with that.
Because listen.
That sure as hell ain't righteous thinking. That's not righteous thinking, by the way.
No. Through my gratitude to God, through my worship of God, God took me from a place where I didn't want to live anymore. I lost everything to giving me everything 10x back. I genuinely believe that. I would not, if I actually wasn't for my faith, and again, I know this is experiential, but even the December 5th is experiential, that comment we made earlier. So experiential teaches us, experiences teach us. I got to a point in my life where I didn't want to live anymore. I saw no light at the end of the tunnel. I really gave up hope. My blind faith in God is what kept me going, and I saw the fruit of that.
Do you believe that maybe some people need that and some people don't?
Look, I do think you can excel in this life without that. But the problem is it can be one of two things, either a reward or a punishment. Okay. The reward is you've done good. You've helped people. You've told them to obey God, to not have alcohol. So God is not unjust. He's going to reward you for that. So he will facilitate. I don't want his rewards. You're living it whether you want it. The fact that we're in this beautiful... I don't want...
This is my hard work, bro. This is called capitalism and putting in the work.
No. Look,
when people doubted me, sounds crazy.
Look,
all the good
you're
stuff.
Going to be rewarded. I said you're going to be rewarded for your hard work. This is the reward of your hard work.
Yeah, this is called capitalism. Not my faith in anything but myself.
There's people that have worked hard that have gotten nothing.
But maybe they're just not good at capitalism.
And the other thing that I was going to say before, let me finish the point. Let me finish and then we'll argue it. But let me finish it. It could also be a punishment, man. God may leave you to everything that you've accomplished, but not give you anything in the hereafter. And I'll tell you this, brother, you could be the richest man in this world, but if you don't have anything after this life, you have nothing.
Agreed.
This life is temporary.
That's why I tell people in reincarnation,
it's temporal.
You can't take the money with you.
Look, in the end, I got to ask you, what's your proof for it? For me, my proof is...
Deja vu. Sometimes you feel, people from past lives. Sometimes you feel connections.
I believe the spirits interact. I believe you have memories from our spirits.
Look at you just slipped. You just said previous and you caught yourself.
No, previous. Okay, so let me explain. All right, hold on.
I guess God's having you tell the truth now too.
No. Let me tell you the previous. No, but let me clarify. Very funny. Let me clarify. The Islamic tradition believes that the souls, before coming to this earth, were in the world of souls, where they interacted, where they met each other. That is why you meet someone for the first time, you feel like you've known them your whole life. And there's some people, you know them your whole life, but you can't stand them. It's because the souls that you click with are souls you connected with before coming to this earth. The souls you don't get along with, you never interacted with in a previous life. You just don't vibe with them. So we do believe that we were in a previous life in the world of souls before coming to this earth.
So everyone only gets one shot.
One shot. Make it count.
One shot.
And this is the world.
Do people go through different experiences in this world? Yes or no?
Different, yes.
So why would everyone have only one shot when it doesn't make much more logical sense that people would go through every experience to see if they would pass that and how they respond
because
to every
I think
experience in different ways?
relative to your experience, we will always have ups and downs. So God, within our own
But
experience,
some people are having ups and downs because of money. Some people are having ups and downs because of family. Some people are having the ups and downs for different reasons. Why shouldn't every soul experience that and be tested in the same way and see if they're worthy?
On the day of judgment, God will take someone who had a super successful, was a leader, had a kingdom, but didn't worship God, didn't do good, and then he will bring Solomon and say, listen, Solomon was wealthy, Solomon was successful, he was a leader, he still did good, so that will be the proof against them. God will take a person who was sick and miserable and didn't do good, and then God will bring Job, Ayub in the tradition. He said he was sick and he still did good. I believe we all within our life will be given sufficient opportunity to connect with our Creator. We will all be tested with sufficient good and bad, and that's all we need. And it's different for every person.
Do you think everyone needs God to be successful and be a good person?
No.
And to go to heaven?
To go to heaven, yes. You
need God to go to heaven.
Well, heaven is where God is.
So if you follow all of God's laws but just do not worship Him, do you get into heaven?
I think if you recognize that God is one, and don't associate partners with Him, and you live a good life.
So I have to recognize it's not enough to say you're the top God.
You're the only.
I have to say
there's no God but you.
So if I say there's only more than one God, I will never get into heaven, no matter what I do.
Gary, I'm with you, brother. I don't think you genuinely believe there's more than one God, because I think the way the way you define God. Do you accept that God is the one who sustains everything and is sustained by nothing?
I don't think our minds are at that
level.
No.
There can't be more than one God. The essence of Islam.
If you believe there's a higher power, listen. So if an atheist is here, I'm going to argue there's a higher power. But if you're here, I'm going to argue there's more than one God.
So my question for you, my brother, is if those two gods disagree,
top guy wins.
Then the other one isn't God by definition.
Well, there's the president of America, then there's the president of Russia. No. Then hold on, there's the president of, they govern different lands. One is more powerful.
I mean, the Quran, and obviously, look,
one is more powerful.
The Quran does argue with logic. So I'm not saying because the Quran says it, that's why you should believe it, but think about it, and if it makes rational sense. The Quran.
Is it Quran with a Q or a K?
I spell with a Q.
Why do some people spell with a K?
I don't know.
Good question. You've seen that.
I've seen that. Yeah, I don't think it matters too much.
No, I think it does matter.
I don't know enough about it.
The spelling, which starts with a K, K is the 11th letter from a Q. Q is, basically a different type of energy. Eight. So if it's the Quran with the 8, that would mean the Quran is very karmic. If it was the K with the Quran, that means that people get very emotional based off the Quran. Why can't people show pictures of the Prophet Muhammad?
Out of love and respect, and so people don't fall into worshiping him like they did with Jesus Christ. I mean, I think one of the greatest injustices of human history is you have a whole, religion centered around worshiping a human being, Jesus.
So worship is bad.
Well, to a human being, it's bad.
To a human being is bad. But they consider that God's son.
Yeah, I mean, it makes no rational sense. I mean, these were pagan.
I think worshiping makes no rational sense. So,
Well, that's our point of disagreement. I think the viewers have to decide
let's go
themselves.
to the Christian now.
Jesus never taught people to worship him. He never claimed he was the Son of God. The earliest manuscripts of the Holy Bible do not reflect that. What happened is the pagan Romans wanted to adopt the religion. They wanted to mix their pagan beliefs. That's where you get Christmas, December 25th, the Trinity. These were all pre-Christ pagan beliefs that the Romans corrupted the religion with. All of the prophets of God came with the same message and the same religion. Their religion was not Christianity. It was not Judaism. Nowhere in the Bible do you find Jesus or Moses or Abraham.
Constantine, a Roman emperor, one of four,
Yes.
basically defeated 3 under Roman emperors and made Christianity the law of the land.
Right.
So, so it did happen.
Well, and with their pagan Roman beliefs. So the idea is that, again, we don't believe these prophets came and said, become Christian, practice Christianity. We believe they came and said, surrender to God, and that means Islam. And a person who surrenders to God is Muslim. So we believe Abraham, Moses, Jesus, Muhammad, they're all brothers with the same message, the same religion. Laws may be different people, different times, but the message is one. God is one. Honor the messengers of God, learn from them, take them as your mentors, and let that translate you to live the best life you can.
Does it say convert or kill in the Quran?
No, it doesn't.
Why do people keep saying it does?
I think it's an Islamophobic trope. Islam, I mean, the largest Muslim country in the world.
There's not a sutra that says that?
No. Okay. The largest Muslim country in the world is Indonesia. They became Muslim through trade. They were just astonished by Islamic ethics in trade. Faith that is forced is worthless.
Forced?
Yeah, forced faith is worthless.
I think you should talk to the Taliban about that.
I mean, I don't know enough about the Taliban. All I know is what the Western...
I know they have AK-47s and they force people to...
what I know is they've defeated just about every empire that's tried to take them over. The Russians,
that's not the
Taliban,
Americans. That's the actual, Afghanis.
Look, we got to admit, whatever we know about the Taliban, generally, unless you know them personally, is what we've heard through the Western media. I don't trust the Western media. So I'm not here to...
I got you. But I mean, they did say about 2 weeks ago that, they would take Tehran if, they keep talking shit to them.
I know, and don't get me started on the Iranians. But I mean, we'll never end if we go down the geopolitical debate. But look, at the end of the day,
give me some of the most just Muslim countries in the world.
I think Jordan's a tentatively good example.
They allow homosexuality there?
I don't believe they do.
Is it more open there than other places?
It might be a little bit, but no. As far as I understand, homosexuality is still not allowed there.
What else? What about Kuwait?
Kuwait, Qatar, I've heard good things. I'm not an expert on this, to be honest. I'm not.
Who is the power in the Middle East? Is it Saudi Arabia, Iran, or Turkey?
I think they're vying for it, right? That is the whole geopolitical battle. Who's going to have the most influence? But again, for me, the longer I've been around, the less I've cared about politics, to be honest, in the sense that I think, most leaders are out for themselves. I don't think a leader of any particular country cares necessarily about the religion. I think they care about building power and
Give
wealth.
me the last good Muslim leader in the...
I would say Sultan Abdul Hamid. He was the one who refused to sell Palestine out from the Ottoman Empire, and he was sort of sidelined. There was a leader in Saudi Arabia who also threatened to embargo when the U.S. was bullying the country, and he was ousted eventually and taken care of.
What do you think about the Shah of Iran?
Not a fan. I will tell you another one.
Was it better under the Shah than it is currently?
Look, I got to know my limit, and I'm just not an expert on Iran and Iranian history and politics. But I will say one of the greatest leaders was Omar al-Mukhtar as well, from Algeria. There's a great movie about him. I would highly recommend it, called Line of the Desert. You can watch the movie.
Are you a Sunni or a Shia?
Sunni.
Okay.
You can watch Line of the Desert real quick. I encourage people to check it out. And the 2 movies I want to recommend everyone watch, if I may, and this is all available on YouTube free of charge. One is Line of the Desert, which talks about the history of Omar al-Mukhtar, one of the last great Muslim leaders who basically fought the French who were invading Algeria. The other is The Message. The Message is a 3-hour film about the life and the message of the Prophet Muhammad from a cinematic perspective. I mean, it's a phenomenal production. It's from the 70s.
I don't know those guys. I know Muammar Gaddafi. I think Muammar Gaddafi was a good man. I don't give a fuck.
Well, and you see,
he came to power in '69 in pretty much a bloodless coup, and Libya went from the poorest country in Africa to the richest country.
And you
in
see
Africa.
what they did to him as a result.
And exactly,
yeah,
they took him out.
The
and in Libya, if you got married, they gave you $20K. If you wanted to study something and they didn't offer in their college institutions, they would give you $50K to go overboard, overseas. This was a very just man. And I believe personally in the Arab world, you can't have a beta leader. You kind of need a strong man.
You need an alpha leader.
So a man who stays in the position for 42 years, 69 to 2011, that's alpha, just like Hosni Mubarak was alpha in Egypt. So my question to you is, do you think you need a strong dictator in the Middle East, and is democracy even a viable option?
It's a great question. And honestly, I think the Islamic model is, again, the best model, which is the model of the Khilafah, right? It is a benevolent, righteous leader that isn't necessarily elected by the masses, but is appointed by a collective of the leaders of the people that are most skilled, most knowledgeable, and has their best interests at heart. I don't think the kind of democracy we have in the U.S. is well suited for the Middle East. And I mean, look what happened when they overthrew Saddam. I mean, look, Saddam did some horrible stuff, and no one's defending that. But exponentially,
they handed it over to Iran, correct?
Exactly, and exponentially more people died when Saddam was removed. I mean, it was chaos. And I met so many Iraqis in my travels to the Middle East who said, listen, yeah, I mean, he was unjust at times. He was brutal.
At times.
To put it nicely. But at the same time, we had peace, we had stability, and we didn't have the level of bloodshed. And I think, look, bloodshed and the strife is worse than whatever benefits came out of the overthrowing of leaders within the Middle East.
Okay. Is that just true in Iraq? What about other places like Yemen and stuff like that?
I mean, I think it's a universal rule. I don't think it's our place to enforce our forms of government. And I don't think it's just about our government, right? I think it's about pushing our morality or lack thereof on the people.
You don't think that should be done?
Hell no.
You don't think you should push your values on people?
I don't think the U.S. needs to push its lack of value. I mean, again, Qatar is a great example with the whole, rainbow flag, issue with, it's just... Leave our kids alone.
It's interesting how the companies in America who support that rainbow garbage in the Middle East are very quiet about it. Whoa. Very, very quiet about it. All these companies here.
Oh, yeah, they're not promoting that.
They're not promoting that anywhere.
And it's just, it's crazy to me. Why is this the one? Why do people want to define themselves by their sexuality and celebrate it and make it a whole identity and a movement? It's strange.
I don't think it's strange. I think the people in positions of power know that if you break up the family, there's only one place to turn: big daddy government.
Yes, I agree with you.
I believe that's
I think that's part of. I mean, in Islam, we do believe in an antichrist, a new world order.
So there is a devil.
There is a devil, and the antichrist.
What's his name? The main jinn?
Iblis, Satan.
I don't like that word. Iblis. I don't say it again.
But I will tell you. Listen, yeah, right. But I think there is the Antichrist.
That's some negative energy.
You feel it, right? Once you say his name.
Once you say that, don't say that name.
I mean,
again.
but you didn't listen when I started saying. Listen, when I started saying Allah's name, you didn't have that reaction.
No, I didn't.
Right? I mean, it's soothing. Allah.
Just because I know someone's the bad guy and someone might be a little bit better doesn't mean it's gonna get
I don't know about a little bit better, brother. Infinitely better. I truly love Allah. I feel His light within my heart. I feel His mercy just every day. I see Him between everything. There's no place where He is not.
What do you mean you see Him?
I know between me and myself is God. I'm not God.
You don't actually physically see Him.
No, not physically. Okay. No, He's beyond vision and sight. The Quran mentions where Moses wanted to see God.
So does He talk to you?
Through the Quran.
Okay,
we believe the Quran is the unchanged word of God.
When you read the Quran,
I feel like it's a conversation. Yes, it's literally a conversation. He's speaking to me, and the Quran, I take new meaning from it every time I read, new messages, inspiration, taste. And when I say new meaning, I don't mean new laws and changing like fundamental beliefs, but I just mean life lessons, encouragement. For me, the Quran, the best way I can describe it, it's an oasis. Like I'm in the desert, when I'm out there in the material world.
Not just a book written by a man.
No, it's an oasis. It quenches my thirst. It fills me with the light. It gives me peace. Look, it's the book. I read it like every day. I never get bored of it. Every time I read it, it's like the first time.
When you talk to a person who isn't spiritual at all and is 100% logical, how do you explain this stuff? Because everything is so faith. No matter what you're saying, every piece of evidence you've given is basically faith based. It always goes to the faith. How do you talk to that man? Because I'm actually somewhat spiritual, so I understand. How do you talk to that man?
I'll take you down the rational argument that I've made since I was a young kid, and that's sort of what cemented me in my faith, right? But it had to start with rationality. I believe rationality is a tool given to us by God to come to know Him. The idea is I would ask them, look, are you going to die or not? They're going to acknowledge they're going to die. So then I would say it's important to know what's after death, correct? And usually they'll say, yeah, it would be nice to know what's after death. I mean, again, this is just rational.
But do you live just for that purpose?
Well, I would say yes, because what's after death is forever. So then next I would say, well, to know what's
Disagree.
After... Well, it's okay. Let me just finish my argument here. And then I would say, okay, so does God exist? That's the number one question. And I would say, listen, if again, it's just a simple example. We can argue, debate about it. If you go in a forest, you find a watch, you're going to think it has a watchmaker. We are much more complicated than watches. I believe the universe has a designer, and I think we can rationally come that there is an all-powerful, almighty being. Then I would say next, would it make more sense that this creator sent revelation to us or not? And I would say it makes more sense that this creator would send us revelation or guidance to come to know him.
More sense to you?
More sense to me, yes. And that's my rational. I believe it is rationally grounded. You may disagree with it, but there is some rational argument to be made that the being would give us a way of knowing him. And then I would just say, well, the Quran is the only book that claims to be from God that was never changed. So I believe that is the
that I can agree with. It's the only book that's never been changed.
Sure. And then when you read it, you find just so many miracles, so many prophecies, even the way it's written.
People say the same thing about the Bible.
No, I mean, the Bible, I can point out so many changes.
They'll say the same thing about yours.
No, they can't.
No, that changes. They'll say Muhammad, again, this is not me saying it. This is someone else, that Muhammad was sleeping with underage.
No, none of that.
Can you explain that, please?
None of that. So the issue is, listen, under the Islamic...
Notice how I tiptoed around
I like that. I don't have to behead you now. Thank you.
That's how I tiptoed around that.
Keeping me out of trouble. Look, the Prophet Muhammad's wife, Aisha, when he married her, she had reached the age of puberty. All right,
13.
Whatever the age of puberty was.
You tell me, brother. You're the expert here.
She what is undisputed. The age is disputed. Different scholars have disputed the age, but the point is,
a Jewish bar mitzvah is a 13. So can we say make the same?
I mean, it could be. I mean, back then, people were adults. I mean, you had Muslim leaders leading armies into battle at 9, 10 years old.
I understand. That.
So by then you were an adult. You were leading armies into war.
By our values today, would they be considered?
No, now they're kids. With this world, you can't even have an 18-year-old lead an army, brother. I mean, they're just sitting on their Xbox all day.
Are we supposed to look at our values today and try?
You can't superimpose it. It doesn't make sense rationally.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Don't impose today's.
I got you, but
and that is why. Sorry, if what he did was wrong, he would have been criticized by his counterparts at that time, by his people living in his time. It was never an issue. It's only a postmodern criticism now.
I got you,
they had 1,000 years. They never criticized it.
But I mean, we evolve as people, don't we? I mean, we have better technology now than we did.
I would say we devolve, brother. We're devolving. We're devolving in some ways.
Besides LGBT,
well, that's a big one.
A lot of people are actually evolving. You're helping evolve people. So we are evolving.
Sure.
But the technology we have, the knowledge we have is definitely evolving in the right place. Having said that, how do we refer it back to your argument?
Which is?
Basically that, God is... I lost my train of
thought. Well, no, I get what you're saying. Let me carry on because I'll save you on this one. The issue is that the principles that God gave us are good for all time. Okay.
I know what I was trying to say. Yeah. I'm sorry. I lost my train of thought. That's
the
fucking weed, man. It's going to happen, son. We evolved as people. We evolved in technology. And we know now, looking back, that slavery was wrong.
Sure.
How come we can't go back now and say, you know what? Maybe Muhammad and this little girl.
No, there's nothing. I mean,
maybe from today's perspective, we could say there's something wrong. Because I'm going to tell you, this is what Christians tell me. This is what Christians tell me. This is what the others. So I'm going to push back a little bit here.
Please do. So
why can't we go back and say, you know what? We knew slavery was wrong. We know this is wrong because we have modern eyes to look at. Why can't we look back and say what Muhammad did was wrong?
No. The reason is, again, back then the people were different. And if the people
were a bit different in the 1860s.
Exactly. So even what was right 100 years ago, these things can change.
Was right? Slavery was right 1860s?
No. I'm not saying that. And you can't compare that with slavery. Look, it was just the
mental slavery. The same thing.
Look, Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, his wife. There was a tremendous advantage for the entire world by his marriage to her, and there was a divine wisdom in it. I will tell you that because she grew up she was an adult by society standards, and she was an adult for all intents and purposes. Again, back then.
But you don't know what her age was.
By then, look, I'll take the most conservative position, which is she was 9 years old. She was 9, but she was an adult by then.
Brother, stop.
Let me.
Hold on, stop.
Yeah,
stop.
Go ahead.
We'll go back.
Go ahead.
You hear what you're saying. She was 9 years old.
But not.
We can go back. We can go back and say slavery was wrong. We have modern eyes to look at. Back then, people didn't know. So we can't say with modern eyes it's wrong for a 9-year-old? Again, I'm not trying to get beheaded here.
No,
I'm
listen.
not trying to have any heat.
Look.
I'm asking simple questions. Why is that not wrong?
Because you're trying, again, that's what was necessary for survival back then. At that time,
Slavery was necessary for survival back then too.
No,
that's the way the economy worked.
It wasn't. You stop comparing this with slavery. Look, the idea is this: back then, it was the norm. I mean, there were you have so many men and women at that time married at 9, 10, 11 years old. There was, one of the commands of the Prophet Muhammad, he was 11 years older than his son. Just that was normal society. They didn't have this childhood garbage that we have nowadays. Back, you were a child when you're before puberty. By the time you hit puberty, you're already out in war. You're already living your life. You may only have a life expectancy up to 20, 25 years old, depending on the area you're in. We can't superimpose that.
Can you say that most Islamic scholars right now would say that is not something we should ever do?
Oh, yeah, in our time, people are different physiologically, psychologically. Again,
so it's wrong today, but it wasn't wrong back then. Is that your argument?
Generally, yes.
Okay,
because people are different.
That's the argument they want to make.
Because they're completely different. But let me tell you something about Aisha. She grew up, right, with the Prophet Muhammad. Much of the religion is preserved through her. Many of the traditions, the teachings. And you have to remember...
How old did she live till?
But I believe, I'm not 100% sure, so don't quote me on it, but until older in age, like till 60s and up.
Okay.
And by the time, she wasn't even 20 by the time the Prophet died. So she remained, by the way, after his death for a long time, decades. And she was one of the greatest leaders and scholars of the Islamic world.
So a woman is one of the greatest leaders of the Islamic world.
When it comes to the teachings of the religion.
What percentage of your greatest scholars are females?
Is
it just her or
others? No.
others?
There is, when it comes to scholarship, look, when it comes to knowledge, yes, women have access to tremendous knowledge. And
what percentage?
I don't know. But the
10,
forefront,
15,
I really
20.
can't. I'm not going to guesstimate. I think, look.
Is it 50?
I don't know. I really don't know. I think I'll be frank with you, most of the well-known Muslim scholars are men. That is their job, right? They're out there teaching the masses, and the women are doing the incredible work of raising those men. So many of the greatest Muslim scholars, like Imam Malik.
Good.
No, it's true.
Imam
Malik, you read about.
You notice how he puts those compliments in there before he said, "That's good. You've been trained."
Look. No, just rapid trial by fire. Imam Malik was one of the greatest Muslim scholars of history. His mother sacrificed so much and worked so hard to enable him to study, to become that leader, to teach him the morality, to teach him the ethics. You can't have everyone do work out there. So the mothers raised these great scholars.
Listen. My wife is a housewife. She raised my 2 kids.
That's amazing.
Them.
It's incredible.
So
you couldn't
again,
do it without her.
I'm not disagreeing
you couldn't
with
do it
anything
without
you
her.
said.
But yeah, when it comes to Aisha, though, because of her younger age, she was able to learn so much, preserve it so much that we wouldn't have otherwise today. And she lived, again, decades after the life of the Prophet Muhammad, teaching people the religion.
Someone should hire you for their PR.
Hey, MuslimLegal.org is my website. We serve everyone.
You're very, very good at, spinning things.
And listen, I'm not spinning. I'm just honest.
Give yourself credit. You're good at spinning things. You're good at talking. You're good at politics. And here's the thing.
That's why I charge the big bucks as a lawyer.
Capitalism wins again, brother.
$400.
Capitalism wins again.
It's available to you for the measly sum of $400 an hour. I'll represent you as your lawyer.
I got you beat, though. I charge more, though.
You do, bro. You got a decade on me.
No doubt, brother. But my point is,
I want to be like you when I grow up, man.
I did it without praying to God, though.
I told you, God will give you. You don't need faith to succeed in this life. You need it for the next life.
I got you. In closing, we're going to close this up. I think we touched on a lot of subjects.
It's been incredible, man.
I think this is podcast stream, whatever the fuck you want to call it, that hasn't been done before. I don't think people have actually challenged someone to the point and done it in a
very respectful
manner. In a respectful manner. What is this?
Some people ask some questions.
If I'm going to die and forget everything, okay. So I'll ask the question then. Gary, what's the point? Pig Boy, Champ Boy is asking, Gary, what's the point of me learning all of this information, even though I'm just going to die and forget everything when I'm reincarnated?
I believe that you go through challenges in life and you learn the experiences. Say you're a 5 life path like you are, and you don't travel in life and you remain isolated. You don't fulfill the mission of the lessons you were supposed to learn. So you fail your reincarnation and you come back and you do it over again until you fucking get it right. That's the way I believe things work. That makes logical sense to know what I believe, that everyone has to go through the same missions at different times. And until you've passed those missions as a soul, you're not leaving this place. That's what I believe. So again, I believe reincarnation is real. We will differ on that. And we'll go from there.
And to answer as well, even though it was addressed to you, but just to spice things up a little bit, from our perspective, look, we believe that in this short time that you're in this earth, God will test you in different ways, times of ease and times of hardship, and that ultimately you will be rewarded accordingly to how you react.
Why will some people get tested more and some people less?
We're all tested in different ways. And
why would some people get tested more if it's only a one-shot deal? Why is this person tested more and this person tested less? It's a one-shot deal. It only makes sense if there's a lot of different missions, a lot of different levels to go through.
Well, you know what? The other thing that may make sense? Okay, that would make sense. The other thing that makes sense is if the test is so short that it really doesn't matter in the eternal grand scheme of things. So
that's unfair.
Well, let me finish. People will be asked on the day of judgment, how long were you alive for? And the answer most of them will give, oh, you're alive for a day or half a day. It was so short. You're just in and out. And you know what? The greater the trials, if you pass them, the greater the eternal reward as well. Some of the traditions actually say that the more God loves you, the more he'll test you. You know, and your rank is greater. He gives his greatest battles, his greatest soldiers.
I believe the people who have been given the strongest energy get tested the most.
Sure.
That's what I believe. 100%.
And it's somewhat consistent.
And NPCs don't get tested.
Amen.
NPCs don't get tested.
I guess he's asking, what is the minhaj? Interesting question. Look, I am a mainstream Sunni Muslim. You know, I think I represent.
Shiites don't like you.
No, I wouldn't say that. I mean, actually, my grandmother, may God have mercy on her, she came from a Lebanese Shia background. You know, I stand for justice with everyone. We have some serious.
What is the main differences between Shiites and Muslim?
I mean, honestly,
Sunnis?
It's a political difference, and you really saw a outbreak of that back in 2003
Iraq.
after the invasion of Iraq.
Thank you, George W. Bush.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, literally, there's footage of like British Secret Service agents dressing up as like Shia and attacking Sunnis just to divide people. But ultimately, it was a political difference. Sunnis believe anyone can lead the Muslim nation. Shias believe you have to be from the members of the Prophet Muhammad's family. But I think the universal message as Muslims is to embody the message of God's messengers, including Jesus.
Do you try to convert Shiites to become Sunni?
Honestly, I don't put a lot of time behind that. I do know quite a number of Shia that have become mainstream Sunni. I do believe the mainstream Sunni path is the right path.
Should you try to convert them as
I think we should. I mean, look, in Islam, it's not about trying to convert, it's inviting. So you share with them the message.
No, hold on. It does say in the Quran, it's your duty as a Muslim.
To invite, not to convert. The Quran actually says your job is to invite, God's job is to transform hearts. But the idea is this. Look, it is our job to call to the prophetic way.
I want you to send me the exact sutra.
Surah. I'm going to send you. I will send it to you afterwards. Okay. So here's the point I want to emphasize. And this is something. Look, Jesus, I believe I follow Jesus more than most Christians. And I think you might not disagree with that. Because we try to live his message. I mean, look, Jesus, he taught morality. He taught, justice, compassion, mercy. In high school, I was voted most likely to look like Jesus. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, you're working on it.
I'm working on it.
It's coming out there.
So we honor the message of Jesus, I think, more than most. I mean, people don't even try to live his life, follow his message, follow his examples. As Muslims, we try to do that.
Do you have people in the Islamic world that disrespect Jesus Christ?
No, never. Never. And by one of your followers, this Muslim dude is kind of an NPC. What the heck, man? Shots fired. I don't know what the heck he's talking about.
Things are gonna happen, brother. You can call him whatever you want. He is entertaining, though.
Thank you, brother.
He is entertaining. So, let's start closing up shop.
Sure.
My whole argument was that I believe in God. I believe in many gods. I believe in reincarnation. My spiritual system is different from your spiritual system, but our material goals are pretty much exactly the same. Yeah. I came to the same conclusions that, again, I'm not going to drink alcohol unless Biden dies, and I'll start chucking him down, bro. I'm not kidding, bro. There's going to be a live stream when Biden dies, and I'm going to, will God forgive me?
I mean, if you ask for sincere forgiveness.
No, I'm not going to ask for any forgiveness.
I don't know.
Will you forgive me? I mean, Biden's a piece of shit.
I can't speak for God. Let me just leave it to that.
Okay.
I'm not
good, safe answer.
Thank you.
Again, I don't drink. I don't do anything to cheat on my wife. I provide for my kids. I try to set a decent example. I'm sure as hell ain't no saint. I believe that's enough. I believe that following morality, what some people call God's laws, I believe that's enough. And one of the things I believe in is karma. Is there anything in Islam about karma?
The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, "Kama tudinu tudan," as you treat others, so will you be
so
treated.
what goes around comes around. So I believe in karma, and one of the things I like to point out is testing your karma. One of the things you can test your karma is, drive with no license plate and see if you get pulled over. I used to do crazy stuff like that just to test my karma. I've lost my wallet 8 times in the past 5 years. Every single time it was returned to me with the exact amount of money in there. Not only that, once I lost my wallet in a pit stop in California, Pennsylvania.
Wow.
It was about $2,000 in there.
Oof.
It was mailed back to me minus the cost of shipping.
Wow.
From a very broke town in Pennsylvania. It's called Breezewood.
Wow.
You remember that, right?
Yeah. I answered the door and mailman was like, "Hey, here's a letter, but you have to give me $5 or and some cents." I'm like, "Huh?" That never happened to me before, so I'm like, "Okay, whatever. I'll just do it this time." And I gave him money, and then I saw it was
my wallet. So again, my karma is good. I have checked myself over and over because what I believe in, I believe is enough. I think you can just be a good person and be enough. But to be quite frank with you, you're an intelligent man. I don't believe that most people who are religious, whether they be Muslims, Christians, Buddhists, are the most intelligent. You obviously are. I do not have the same respect for most. And the reason I don't have it is because when you look at everything that goes on, they really just have faith. They can't even articulate their thoughts. They can't do it. It bothers me. It bothers me when people can't articulate what they believe in. They can't put it out there. Sure. You have been, whether you believe in what this man is saying or not, he has put down a good show. He's been funny when his need to be. He's basically debated very well. And I think he's actually made some points. The whole point was I wasn't against what he was saying. My whole point is I do not believe we pray. I think when you pray, you actually become prey. So there's a new one for you. So I will let you put in your last statement.
Appreciate it.
Go ahead.
Gary, first I want to thank you for inviting me onto your show, at your platform.
You'll be on again.
And it'd be an honor. Thank you for the great lunch and just the brotherhood. I think this is what it's all about, being able to learn and grow with each other and have a healthy dialogue. Where we disagree, we don't pretend to agree on everything. We have serious conversations about where we disagree.
And I have to thank you because after the degenerates I had on yesterday, you're because I don't want people to think that's what I'm all about. We're gonna do some of the stuff like here too.
Hey, I'll come back anytime. I brought a shout out to my wife who's watching. Cosmic V, she just put in a message there.
He says nothing but good things about you.
I swear it's true. And so thank you for her love and support. But look, at the end of the day, as a Muslim, I do believe God is one, and I believe that he doesn't need anything by definition, but that through our gratitude to him, we grow, we benefit. And the most beautiful thing is connecting with the eternal divine. And we get some benefit of it in this life, but the real fruit is when we breathe our last, we return to our source, our creator, and enjoy that eternal union with him. That's what I'm looking for. Thank you for the audience, the great comments.
His opinion, no proof. Anyways, how do people reach out to you? How do people find you?
Hit me up on Instagram and Twitter. I see they put the link up there. Hassan ESQ, HASSANESQ _ on Instagram, or just my name, Hassan Shibli, on Twitter. Reach out if you got any questions about Islam, Muslim spirituality. Answer them free of charge, no cost. If you want our legal services, we'll give you top-notch legal aid at a pretty penny. And thank you. I'm looking forward to continuing the conversation, guys.
This has been a GG33 production.
God bless you, brother.